Commissioner, is that you?
It is, Hurston. How are you?
How you doing? Good to see you.
Mwah.
Thank you so much for making time. We're here in beautiful Key Largo, Monroe County. How you feeling?
It's a beautiful day in the fabulous Florida Keys, and we couldn't be more happy and honored to have you here.
A lot of people don't know this, but you're actually from Alaska.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about Alaska.
My family's actually originally from Florida.
Okay.
Central Florida. And so they moved up to Alaska in the 1960s to get into aviation.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, a lot of places in Alaska you can only get to by an airplane or by boat. But we always vacationed in Florida. And I loved every time I would step off the airplane. It's the same thing that I do when I step off the airplane in Miami. You smell that moist, beautiful Florida air.
There's nothing like it.
And I missed it. And I remember I was probably in 8th grade and it snowed in the middle of May. In Anchorage. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska.
Of course, yeah.
Born and raised there. And I looked at my parents and I said, I love you both so much, but there's no way that I'm going to school and staying in Alaska. So as soon as I turned 18, I had applied to Florida State because, you know, I knew I wanted to come back to my roots, back to Florida. And being an Alaska girl, I didn't know the difference between UM, UF, FSU.
You heard Florida.
I did, but you know what I wanted to do was to get into government, into political science. And so Tallahassee was the capital, and I knew I would surely, you know, probably be able to get a job.
Tell us a little bit about Holly in high school. What was Holly like in high school?
Holly was very fun. But Holly worked very hard as well.
You were working in high school?
I did, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I actually started working when I was 14 at Pizza Time. I also taught dance, and I actually grew up dancing, ballet, tap, and jazz.
Really?
And so when I got into high school, I was old enough to teach, and so I got to teach the little ones, ballet, tap, and jazz. And so I actually had a couple jobs. I also ran track my freshman year.
Okay.
And I was actually
a little bit of arts, a little bit of sports.
Yeah, I was a cheerleader as well, because I wasn't, you know, I couldn't play basketball, wasn't a good soccer player. And I was like, I love people. I love performing. I could be a cheerleader.
Now, you end up leaving, right? This huge move takes place. Tell me, were you scared, a little bit of trepidation? What were your worries? Were you excited? What was going through your mind?
I was more excited than anything. And I also went to a school where I knew not one person. Not one person.
Very brave of you.
So I was forced, right, to make friends. And I learned what humidity is and just knew.
You learned that day
so
one.
It was so beautiful and so different and warm all the time. And I knew that I had found my happy place.
We have a lot of young people who watch us, who keep up with DML 305. And one thing that we talk a lot about is drive. What drove you? Because it seems from what I'm gathering that you had this kind of, your mind was made up. You knew what you wanted to do. You had this focus. Where do you think that comes from?
I really had that drive, and that's just kind of career. But I think that's something that's just internal, you know, that personal vested interest in being successful. And I knew that I wanted to get a job. I wanted to go. I wanted to keep, you know, excelling. And I, you know, get working in the Capitol that the junior and senior year just blew my mind. And I knew that God had put me where he wanted me.
What brought you down to South Florida?
Oh, to the Keys?
To the Keys.
Oh my goodness gracious, this is a wonderful story. You're not going to believe this. I had never been to the Keys.
Really?
I did a little research on it.
You're not going to believe this. This is
it's
my
not
first time
hard.
here in the Keys.
What?
This is my first time.
Oh my gosh, Hurston,
we
we're
came
gonna
down
change
here
that.
for you. Okay, we can.
We're gonna actually get to stay a little longer than an hour or two. But I had never even stepped foot on these islands, and so I basically got the job. Oh, in between that time, you know, graduation and moving down to the Keys, I went to Australia.
Okay.
Because that's what a newly certified scuba diver does.
Down under.
They go to the farthest away, biggest reef on the
planet.
And then I found out I got the job, and I loaded every single thing that I owned, and it fit in one of those tiny little U-Haul trailers, connected it to the back of my Jeep Liberty.
There you go.
And drove down here. And you know, it takes a long time, almost like, I don't know, 10 hours. And I was coming to the Upper Keys. I wasn't going all the way to Key West. And the experience, I'll never forget it. And then I hit, you know, obviously the turnpike, and I'm driving on the turnpike with a trailer. And then I come onto the stretch and it's dark. And then I drove in at night, I actually stayed in my boss's garage for the beginning of my lifetime or my life
We
here
call it
in
an
the
efficiency
Keys.
in Miami.
Yes,
Yeah.
they called it the Garage Mahal. It was more than an efficiency. So I was happy to stay there as long as he would let me. And
that's great.
obviously, I had to find my own place. But the next morning, I got up, I threw on some shorts, and I stepped outside. And he lived on this bay, on Florida Bay. And I remember looking around, going, "Oh my gosh, what have I stumbled into?" And from that moment on, I have been in love with the Keys.
How important is it for maybe the older generation to open those doors and give young people an opportunity?
I wouldn't be here without that. I have several mentors that are decades older than me that when I moved down here, I could recognize, ooh, that's a mover and shaker. Ooh, that's somebody that I need to know. And not that I was, I'm climbing the ladder or anything. It was that I knew that this was a unique place, was navigated towards them and turned to them for advice. But for those people, and if they're watching, you know who you are.
Tell me, at what point do you decide to run for office? Because at this point, you had been helping other
It's
folks,
another fun story.
learning kind of the game.
Yes.
At what point do you say, you know what, it's my time?
Yes. Well, that was an interesting decision, and I'll tell you why. I'd worked as an aide for 10 years. I'd worked for both a Republican and a Democrat. So my Republican boss was an outgoing term-limited chairman of local government. And that is an experience that I think, elevates me in terms of being able to work in the process, work across the aisle, so to speak. And so Ron decided that he wanted to run for state Senate. And so that opened up his House seat, and I wrestled with it. There were a couple gentlemen that were running to replace him, and I really couldn't see myself working for them. And you could talk about their heart in the right place and things like that. Surely you hope it is, and it was. But I thought, man, I know this community. I know this job. However, I had just had a baby. I had a brand new baby. I'd been married a year before, had a brand new baby, and I talked to my husband at the time and obviously my family and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And I got the support and launched my campaign, I think in April. I think he wasn't even 3 months old yet. And it was it was a wonderful experience. You know how in campaigning, they say you got to shake hands and kiss babies? Well, I shook hands and just brought my baby with me. And he was chubby and he was cute. And he was the perfect swag model. I'd stick a little onesie with my logo. And I got some interesting pushback from some people that, you should be at home taking care of your baby, not out campaigning. But I would remind them, well, I'm happy to bring my baby with me. So not always. There's some things you can't do. So thank goodness for my husband. But it was just a magical experience. I had a primary and a general. So in the primary, I beat the former mayor of Key West.
Wow.
And then in the fall, I had a Democratic opponent. And actually, I got to be on the ballot with President Obama. It was a huge presidential year.
Wow.
2012, yes. And so I defeated him. That was a little bit closer. And it was such a adventure. So sometimes I'd start here because I lived in Key Largo at the time. I live in Tavernier now. I would go to Key West for an event. I would probably stop at one in the Middle Keys. And then I would have to go to Homestead for an event. But it was so eye-opening. Again, I understood the issues and, the community and the needs and the wants. But being on the ballot is an experience that changes you as a person. It shifts the dynamic.
Correct me if I'm wrong, 2017, you decided to go back to school?
Yes. So I took advantage of a program that is offered through state workers. I knew that it would elevate me in my career. I knew that it was something that I could add to my resume. And it was something that I needed to do. I wanted to do. And so it took me 4 years, I think. And you could take up to 6 credits a semester. And so I did that. And
Master's at Florida International?
At Go Panthers.
Yeah, public admin, right?
Yep. Florida International University. I did everything online. Everything. The only time I stepped foot on campus was to sell my books back and to walk across that stage. For somebody to be able to do that at one of the nation's, if not the nation's largest university, it's been helpful. I've been able to speak on, I'm talking to you about it right now, and it was just a wonderful journey.
When they tell you, you know what, Holly, I think you're putting too much on your plate. How do you respond to that, and how do you prove those folks wrong?
Yeah. And that comes up. Actually, I ask myself sometimes that, like, where, I have the disorder of, I can just get one more thing done. And so I show up to something 5 minutes late because I had to
What's
do
your
that.
zodiac sign?
I'm Sag,
Oh,
Sagittarius,
okay.
all the way 100%.
Okay.
December 16th. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm right there. So but I recognize in that trait in myself. I'm certainly not in denial of that. And what I say to other people is, I'm happiest when I am busy. I do. I like to be busy. I'm up and down these islands all the time. I'm in Miami all the time. My private sector job is in Deerfield Beach.
Deerfield?
Deerfield.
Oh
Yes.
my
Yes.
goodness.
I was there yesterday. And I don't go all the time. I can work remotely, but
So you have a private sector job as well?
I do, in emergency management.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So I'm a Florida Government Relations Director for Ashbrit.
Wow.
Ashbrit is the nation's largest emergency response firm.
What do you tell those young people? Because throughout your life, it seems like you had direction. But I think there are a lot of folks out there, a lot of young people who are just feeling lost. Like, I don't know what's next. Like, what do I do with my life? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure. I think that comes from families and maybe superiors.
Mm-hmm.
Then you really have, like, the world is your oyster.
Mm.
And so you need to drill down on what that is. What makes you feel good? Do you think government makes me feel good all the time? No. But does it challenge me? Yes. When I help somebody, that is the best part of my day.
Commissioner, thank you so much for making time for us. We appreciate you.
You're the best person.
We can't wait to...
I hope we can do this
We gotta do
again.
this again.
We do.
With beers.
Margaritas.
Oh, even better.
Yes.